Welcome back to On the Virg podcast, the Truth in Podcast, and today's date is Friday, June 6th. Welcome back to On the Virg podcast, the Truth in Podcast, and I'm excited today. We have some guests today. We have a guest today that we're going to be talking about here in a few minutes. Get to know her a little bit, and also we have Trent, my longtime standby, who is part of the podcast as well. But first, I want to thank some of our sponsors, Little Mill Media, who puts this on for us. They're here today behind the scenes, making everything look good. We all have, or I should say, have the face for radio, so they make us look good. I appreciate that. Also, Twin Peaks Off-Road is my company, and they sponsor this podcast as well. And of course, I am your host, Virgil Osborne, State Representative for House District 2. This podcast is mostly nonpartisan, but sometimes we get very partisan. Today, we're going to be partisan because we are going to be talking about a Republican candidate for governor. Also, if you don't like what we do partisan-wise, you can start your own podcast. Little Mill Media is here. They're happy to help you with that. It's not super expensive to do, but you could also not watch our podcast. But we prefer that you do. And with that, please like and follow us. We're on Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook. You can also catch us on Apple Music, Spotify. You can catch us on Amazon Music and YouTube. And this is the voice of Southern Oregon. We are the conservative voice of Southern Oregon, but we're also very open-minded here too. So the more we can get participation with you, the audience, and us, the more people get to know what's going on out there for real. And I like to keep everybody up to date on what's really happening in the State House, House of Representatives, and with the Senate. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that today and giving you a little bit of some updates on what's happening. So with that, I want to first introduce Trent. He's kind of my helper with this. And Trent, who are you?
I'm still Trent Drake. I'm the executive chair for the Douglas County Republican Central Committee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to my left is Danielle Bethell.
There you go.
I have a hard time with that first name for some reason.
It's okay.
Danielle, please introduce yourself.
So I'm Danielle Bethell. I'm a current Marion County Commissioner, and I'm running as the Republican candidate for governor.
Great. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I'm excited to have you today. I've got lots of questions for you.
Great.
And I hope to have you back because I'm sure that we won't get all the questions out in the short period of time. But the first thing I want to ask, and I would ask with any candidate for governor, are you crazy? No, I won't say crazy. Being the governor of Oregon is difficult. No matter what party you're in, it would be a very difficult thing. So what's your background? How did you get to this point where, hey, look, I want to be the governor of Oregon?
Yeah, so I made the decision to run for governor last year after spending pretty much the bulk of my life navigating the service space of life. Not as in yes, I've been in sales and different things, but mostly I've lived my life helping individuals connect to systems and to find stabilization and to look at individuals for who they are and where they are, to try to find a healthy, peaceful space for them to thrive in. I've lived most of my life in survival mode. It's only been the last decade where my husband and I haven't been surviving, but we've really been living. And as a commissioner, I have the opportunity to see the need that we have in Oregon that is vast across all systems. And I think we lack leadership at the state with real life experience that has had exposure to adversity and opportunity and to be able to navigate from poverty to stabilization. And I've lived that experience.
You had mentioned to me some of your childhood growing up, where you grew up and give us a little background.
Yeah. So my parents divorced when I was really little, and my parents divorced because my mom had serious mental health issues. She was an amazing human that took care of anybody she could take care of except for herself. And a lot of that was driven from her mental health challenges. And because of her mental health, my sister and I traveled up and down the I-5 corridor. It was like she was running from something or running to something, but could never really identify what that something was. And all of it was manifested in her mind. There was no system of care that could capture her because there was no doorway with a bright sign that said, "Come here, we'll help you." And she was so difficult. It was hard for her family to be her family. So because of that, because of her challenges, she fell out into the society that we live in that allows people to kind of get caught up in the stream. And she just flowed with that stream with no actual grounding. And being her children, we went with her. Throughout that experience, there were times where she would find us. For the first time I ever experienced real homelessness was actually in Southern Oregon. I was in Gold Hill. And I was just down there recently with the Sluts tribe doing the ceremony for their recapturing of their homelands. And I was talking to Dee about the visual that I have as a young girl. I was entering into the second grade, so somewhere around 7 years old. I recall the environment that we lived in, and I wonder if I could find the road and the cabin/shed that we lived in for several months with another mom and her children. Something you probably know as a representative, but maybe you don't, I'll just tell you, is that often when women are homeless, they stick with other women. Oh, yeah. And if they're women and children, they stick together. It's safety in numbers type of a situation. So we found ourselves in those situations quite a bit. And then when I aged into high school, she went to a powwow in Washington and never came home. Oh, wow. And so I was on my own at that point and had been able to adapt to my environment and find skills that allowed me to be a valuable, peaceful kid, I guess, enough to where other parents of my friends allowed me to live with them through high school. So I couch surfed or bedroom surfed for a couple of years.
Perseverance. That's you made it.
I did make it. Yes, someday I'll write a book about what that journey looks like, I'm sure. Maybe this is my book. Maybe this is my story as I navigate this race. My hope is that I can not just offer hope, but I can offer people a pathway. Yes, I'm a Republican, and yes, I have very conservative values, but what Oregon has going on right now is not okay.
No, it's nonsense.
And there are solvable systems today at the local level that work. I listened to your podcast. You've had several people here that have talked about how they work in your community to navigate individuals who are lost. And people who are homeless, they're lost. Yeah. Whether it's their mental health, their addiction, a combination of both, whatever, they're lost. And
they need a hand up to find a way out.
That's right.
Yeah.
And some accountability.
Yes.
I'm a very firm believer in accountability. I run systems of care in Marion County as a commissioner. I sign contracts. I've signed several that are very successful in helping people navigate from the streets into transitional housing, into stabilization, into sobriety. We don't use taxpayer dollars in Marion County to allow people to fail out in systems.
Which leads me to my next question. So being a commissioner, particularly in Douglas County, it's hard work. I mean, you have obviously in Douglas County, I'm not sure how Marion County is put together, but in Douglas County we have 3 commissioners.
Yep.
And they basically are the CEOs, CFOs of the county. They run the entire county. And I assume you guys are set up similar. So, I mean, to make the jump from being somebody who kind of came up through you were homeless at one point, you were able to finish school, you were able to get where you got, and then all of a sudden, bam, now you're a county commissioner.
Yeah.
Did the crazy level just go a little higher? Or how did you end up in that spot?
No, I think God's given me certain gifts that make this natural for me. I went to college late. I graduated from Oregon State when I was 30. It took me 8 years to get a bachelor's degree for all the things you could imagine why, based on the trajectory of my childhood. But I got a degree in political science, and I was able to navigate what government looked like. And I had been working for the government for about 10 years up until then. So I understood the foundation of Oregon government. And then moving into the role of being the executive was a bit of a culture shock for me, and also imposter syndrome was really huge for me in the first couple of years, questioning why Marion County is large. There's 352,000 people that live in it.
Yeah. That's 3 times the size of Douglas County.
Yes, it's very large. It's also equally urban and equally rural. And so we have conflicting things that happen across our community on a daily basis. And so when I would enter into the room with my peers, I have 2 commissioner peers as well, so we're a board of 3. I found myself questioning the viability. And then as I would move through the decisions, I realized that it's my life skill and it's my ability to enter into a room and see what's in front of me and learn the systems quickly to make the decision. And I'm quick to make decisions that I feel very good about.
Sure.
But I have a substantial team that supports the work that we do. I'm very blessed in Marion County.
I think I can relate to what you're saying there, because I remember my first election in 22 when I was elected into the House. And I got to Salem and we're going through our orientations, and it's like there is no grace period. It's like you're elected, January is your long session. You go 6 months of making laws.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there during our orientation thinking to myself, I'm actually one of those guys we're going to write laws for the whole state. And I'm looking around me going, I hope we're all qualified to do that, right? And as I progressed, and this is my third session, I realized we're not all qualified to do that.
That's right. I agree. No offense. I think you're doing a great job.
I appreciate that. But, there are some things that we are literally voting on that to this day, I go, this is my opinion, but it's just my opinion. I think I have a pretty broad perspective. I'm a business owner, and I've got some background in government as well. But I rely on a group of people back here in district. If I come up against something that I just want opinions on, like the sheriff, the commissioners, I have a group, even Trent, I have a group of people that are not politically connected, then I'll just ask them the question like, hey, we have this bill coming up and it covers whatever. What is your thoughts on that? And I think collectively we're better when we get other opinions involved, especially people that know what's going on, because none of us know everything. Unfortunately, I think the Democrats do think they know everything, and I'm sorry, I'm a little political on that, but we're going to go into some of that a little bit in here shortly. But Trent, you have any questions for?
Well, I do actually. So one of the things that you played into is in your background, you used the term over and over, my experience.
Yeah.
I never heard anything saying, the tragedy of my life or blah, blah, blah. You used it as an experience to move forward. Drill into that just a little bit.
Yeah.
How that got you to this point.
Well, I think I wasn't born with the victim mentality, and I also don't believe in entitlement. While my mom experienced serious challenges, she was a fighter and a survivor, and she instilled in both myself and my sister that we can do anything that we want to do regardless of our circumstance, and I believe her. I believed her then, and I believe her now. She's passed now, and I reflect often on her life, wondering why I don't have some of these other characteristics that you see kind of flooding through folks who are victims of their circumstance. And frankly, I believe in the American dream. I believe that any person can get anything they want with just some hard work. And I also know accessing whatever the systems are to achieve that is too difficult in America. Right. I can tell you that from my experience, that as I evolve into my life, I have to look at myself and determine what vulnerability really is and whether I'm afraid of that. I'm not. And I'm also a very curious human being. And since I have those two qualities, it allows me to just tackle what I want. I will call anyone for anything about anything to find the information, because information is power. Knowledge is power. And I learned that really young. I mean, when I was in the second grade, I went to Talent Elementary down in South. I was a Mustang. I remember the goldenrod yellow shirts that we had to wear for soccer. Anyway, I had to fill out my own school paperwork. Because my mom wasn't capable of doing whatever. At home, I remember filling it out. I have her social security number memorized. And I didn't know that wasn't what you're supposed to do. It wasn't until I was in high school, it was my junior year, where I had to fill out a survey in history class, which is what we do here in Oregon. We make high school kids their junior year fill out surveys, emotional well-being surveys. And I answered it honestly. And my history teacher realized in that moment that I had a lot of challenges going on. And then I was identified with a label. I had no label before that. I was just a young girl trying to live her best life, be the most attractive girl in the space. I was a terrible athlete, but I tried to be an athlete. All the things you experience going through school. And when I got that label, I was really angry, if I'm being totally honest, because I felt like they were shouldering me with less than. And I mean, yes, I experienced challenges, and I was a pretty angry kid until I was in my early 20s. It was an adult that helped me through life who sat me down one day, a gentleman, and said, you don't have to be so angry at the world. While the world is difficult, you can make it what you want. And I have just taken these valuable bits of wisdom that folks impart on me, and I just apply them to life.
Isn't it funny how in our lives, usually, it happened to me too, something happens. Somebody of influence says something to you, or you find out something and it changes how you look at things for the rest of your life. I remember being a freshman in high school, played on a football team. I was a good football player, so I moved up to varsity. And I remember the coach left his clipboard out one day in the locker room, and he had made comments about all of the people on the team, right? And of course, I want to see what the comment was that he said about me. And it said self-centered. And it just destroyed me. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be that. And I'm like, what, 15, 16? Yeah. I'm going, I don't want to be that. Mm-hmm. Right. And the rest of my life, I have never forgotten that. Today, I can visualize it. And, I'm not. I mean, I'm all about the people. I'm all about, community service. I've been part of Search and Rescue for almost 25 years now. And I will never become that. It was because I read that.
Yeah.
It's just odd. There's so many questions I want to ask you, and it's so great to finally get a chance to interview you, person.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no, it's a great podcast. We do some pretty cool stuff. Moving forward.
Yeah.
So as you know, I'm a Republican also. I probably have the most conservative voting record in the state right now. In fact, I do. Myself and Shelley Bossar were both rated 100% with our CPAC ratings. There are, and that doesn't mean every vote's conservative. It just means the ones that count are conservative. In Southern Oregon, especially in rural Oregon, you have Republicans that are just hardcore. You're not taking my guns. You're not taxing me. You're not taking my fossil fuels, whatever the case may be. But you also have Democrats that are like, you're not taking my guns, right? And you're not going to tax me. And then we come to this, like, there's turning points are abortion, like, for instance, or, whatever there may be. But it's always that one thing but in general, down here in Southern Oregon, it's really hard to say, well, you're a Democrat or Republican, because the majority of people all have the same issues. We all deal with the same stuff day in, day out. Businesses are hurting. I can tell you there's a lot of Republicans that work at the mill down the road. There's also a lot of Democrats that work at the mill down the road. It doesn't matter to them. They just want to have a job. Mm-hmm. Where do you land on that scale? Are you hardcore Republican? Are you hardcore, middle of the road conservative? Are you fiscally conservative, but yet you're open-minded? That's kind of where I am. I'm fiscally conservative. Don't take my money. And I don't believe in, I believe in the Republican platform, but it doesn't mean I'm close-minded. But tell us where you are.
Yeah, so I fall right of center. I was a Democrat until I was 30. I didn't know any better, if I'm being totally honest.
Most kids are Democrats.
I didn't. Here's what I can tell you about the failing system of education in Oregon. We don't actually teach most kids, especially kids who are surviving, the things that they need to understand about the world around them that's making decisions on their behalf. When I graduated high school, as sad as this may be, I registered as a Democrat because I thought Democrat and democracy was the same thing. Yeah. I did. And it was, years into my 20s before I really even started to pay attention. It was in my late 20s when I started paying attention to politics, even though I had worked for the state of Oregon. When I went to college was when I really gained a foundation of understanding of the political scale, the ideology, the republic that we are. And I started a business when I was 28 years old. And the first year I had to process my taxes, I was pissed. And I asked my accountant because I needed to go to a CPA. I owned a small company where, I didn't pay quarterlies. I had no idea what I was doing. Oh, no. And it was fine.
So then you paid them all through.
I had to figure it all out. That's the hard way. Because again, there's no real life 101 to know all the things. And he explained to me who was making these decisions essentially as to why I was paying all this money to the state. And then I was like,
I'm surprised you haven't run for the House yet.
I don't have any interest in being in the legislature. So I was like, who's making these policies? Do they even understand what it's like to be me? In 2008, my husband has always been in construction. I was working for a nonprofit and running this business. The economy tanked We almost lost our house. We had to file for, I think it was a Chapter 13 bankruptcy to keep our home. And I was just trying to work, try to figure this out. And every year I was paying more and more in taxes. So when I turned 30, I was like, okay, these people are just taking my money and they're not doing anything good with it. They weren't helping me. They hadn't helped me at all my whole life. And I really feel that way. Being somebody who the state, the safety net, the system of care is supposed to see. They didn't see me. They never once did right by myself and my sister. And there was a lot of opportunities for them to be supportive. I'm grateful that I never ended up in foster care, but I could have. And so anyway, through my 30s, I evolved. I think most people evolve as they age. And yes, I became a Republican because I was a fiscal conservative. That's what I learned in college. And then I started to really lean into, and there are portions of the Republican Party that I don't agree with. I get very frustrated with individuals who tell me how I should live my life, regardless of where they come from, whatever scale. I really believe in the whole mind your business unless I need your help, like mind your business. Yeah. And so
I believe the same. I think that the Republican Party, for one thing, the Republican Party is very, very individualized, right?
Yes.
You have factions of the Republican Party. If we could ever get together and pull the same direction and bring a few non-affiliated voters with us, we would probably take our state back.
I agree.
And the sooner we get to that point, the better off we will be, because we will get to keep more of our tax money.
Yeah.
And I do believe that Republicans are compassionate, and I see it in Douglas County. I mean, people are always, giving a hard time to our commissioners and people, but the people that are in charge in Douglas County, they're very compassionate toward the causes of homelessness.
Of course.
And things. But there's also the law, right? I mean, there's things you have to do. There's things you can't do. There's rights you can't infringe on, and there's some things that you can sway. But
yeah,
well, we'll get into that here in a minute. So I want to take a quick break. We'll talk about some of our sponsors, and we'll be back in just a few seconds here. Thank you.
Is your 4x4 ready for the trail? Twin Peaks Off-Road is your first stop for maintenance, repairs, and custom upgrades. From differential services to winch installs, we do it all. Fast, reliable, and built for adventure. Don't wait for breakdowns in the backcountry. Call Twin Peaks Off-Road today at 541-900-0015 or visit twinpeaksoffroad.net. Keep your 4x4 off the roads and in the adventure.
All right, well, welcome back, folks. We're gonna dive a little deeper into some questions here for Danielle Bethell, our next potentially governor of the state here. If you've been following, and I'm sure you have, you've been following what's happening in Salem right now. Believe me, I'm living the nightmare in Salem right now. A lot of things are really tenuous and very controversial.
Yeah.
Number one, well, I shouldn't say number one, but one of the hot topics for rural Oregon is Senate Bill 83.
Yep.
So the House came up with House Bill 3944, which is a mirror of Senate Bill 83, and it's the wildfire map repeal bill. Right. And the Senate Bill 83 was actually put together by Senator Jeff Golden, and it was a fix to his disaster of a map bill, which we've fixed once before, and now the third time he's out. Hopefully he's out because he's not done anything good, in my opinion, in Southern Oregon. But it sailed through the Senate.
Yeah.
No problem. Unanimously in the Senate. Came to my committee, Climate, Energy, and Environment. And if you follow me on social media, you can see what I said to them because I completely disagreed with what they did.
Yeah.
But we parked it in rules, which has two outcomes.
Yep.
Number one, we kill it. Or number two, it gets the kicker added to it.
Yeah.
And they take your kicker tax. So that's going to be a hot topic. And I'm sure that's going to get a lot of votes. And I mean, even if you're a Democrat, you're going to lose your kicker tax because Governor Kotek decided, and the Speaker Fahey, frankly, Speaker Fahey, this was her behind it, and Representative Gamba has basically came right out and said it. This is our elegant way of taking your money so you won't feel it.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Because they've already taken it. They shouldn't have taken it in the first place.
And it's not a little bit of money either.
No, it's $1 billion.
It's $1 billion. Yeah.
I got to ask. I mean, tell us your opinion on that.
Well, I'm completely opposed to both the map and the theft of my money. I've been frustrated with the taxation in Oregon for a long time. I'm way more frustrated with it now that I'm a local elected official and I know firsthand what they're doing with our money and how wasteful they are and how dishonest they are with it. Some of it in the state agencies is pure incompetence and or just bureaucrats who want to have a job. And others is they're so incompetent, they don't understand the system that they're funding and they just throw money at it. But the wildfire map, so Marion County is equally urban and equally rural, and we have the Santiam Canyon and Scotts Mills.
One of the worst wildfires of 2020.
Yes, right. Yep, we were one of the 8 terrible fires of 2020, and we have a substantial portion of the Willamette National Forest in my county. We were blessed to only end up having 2 properties after you guys went through the first iteration of it. But the first iteration of it, I fought like hell to kill it. I mean, I'm in leadership for the Association of Oregon Counties. So in 2023, when we were going through that process, we had the forester and all these folks come to our district meetings to kind of talk at us about how this is great for us. And in those meetings, and these are recorded, in 2023, we had the Oregon Fire Marshal and the Oregon Board of Forestry in conflict with their PowerPoint slides. We were so frustrated because we believe in clean forest management. When I say we, I mean the Board of Commissioners, but I personally believe now I'm married into a timber family. I know a lot about logging and timber and forest management. And so we were arguing that all of this crap that you're forcing on us could be solved with just reintroducing natural performance in natural resources through proper forest management. We wouldn't need all of these fire hardening things because we wouldn't have massive wildfires anymore.
Right.
So we fought. Marion County is a large county. We're the 5th largest.
That goes against the climate change idea.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Right. Well, anyway. So Marion County engaged that fight with the Association of Oregon Counties because we're a larger county with more resources to help our rural partners. And we were able to help you all get, the second iteration that came forward. And our staff at AOC, the Association of Oregon Counties, worked really hard to try to find a path of understanding with our Democrat leaders. And they weren't interested. Senator Golden has met more hours with county commissioners than I think any elected official in my experience. And he just doesn't care what we're telling him.
He's completely driven by the narrative that the entire problem with the entire state is climate change. And that's all that matters to him.
What blows my mind, Oregon has less than 4.2 million people. We're not even 4.2 million people. The city of Chicago in the state of Illinois has over 10 million people. Oregon is like a drop of blood in a pool when it comes to climate change globally. And what frankly irritates me is that we're gaslighting people in poverty, that their hardships, their need to have a car to transfer their children from A to B because they can't go to the grocery store on the bus or a bike. Yeah. It's like burdening them with this emotional trauma of things that, yes, your fossil fuels do participate in harming the environment, but not to the scale that China or other foreign countries engage in, let alone massive cities in the United States.
We're a carbon net zero state. We grow enough trees to take care of anything we could possibly produce, and then some.
Yes, and if we would cut more trees and grow baby trees, baby trees absorb carbon, and it's their fuel for life.
Yes.
So, there used to be a rule, and maybe it still exists. I'm not too familiar with forestry in as far as like the groundwork, but it used to be for every tree cut, they had to plant 2. And is that still around?
It's a little higher number than that, but yeah.
So my life has been at least that. So we've been doubling the tree population. And I understand that there's like the challenges of wildlife and so forth, but also it's just the right thing to do. We're just failing in the policy space across the state level.
We in the 80s, I think we were planting 10 trees for every tree we took out.
Wow.
It was considerably higher, which with the full intention of thinning.
Sure.
And then when the spotted owl hit, the thinning stopped, which created the tinderbox that we live in now. Yeah. And you have a bunch of trees that are 30 years old and they're 6 inches around because they're all growing 6 feet apart and they can't grow. Forest management would take care of the entire wildfire issue. And I remind Senator Golden when I have chances to speak with him, and I prefer not to very often, but I do. But I do remind him that loggers put fires out.
Right.
And that's why when I was a kid growing up here, and he wasn't, I believe he was from California or somewhere. I don't know where he's from, but when I was a kid, we didn't have wildfire issues.
Right.
We had a few fires here and there, but the worst case, a fire would go crazy and it would come up against a clear cutter, come up against a fire service road that we didn't decommission, and they had a chance to fight the fire, and they put the fire out. Yeah. Now, the forests are just a hot mess, and they're a tinderbox. And if you drive up the North Oakbah today, you can see where the Forest Service left all of the dead standing trees after our Archie Creek fire, which creates an issue where you can't even go in there and fight a new fire if a fire starts, because with the danger of a dead snag falling on you, we can't put the firefighters into that. I was one of the first responders on Archie Creek. I was there at the Dogwood Hotel, I think is where it was, is where we made our last stand. We literally got our maps out. I'm search and rescue. We're on our trucks. We're going, okay, what do we do? We're literally going door to door trying to get people out, and we did. Nobody died. Thank the Lord that nobody died on the way out. But that fire was burning in the scar of an old fire. Yeah. And it was hot. I mean, it was so hot you couldn't even hardly be across the river from it. It was that hot. And that's simply a mismanagement of our forests. So,
well, the fire that started in the Santiam Canyon burned for several weeks on federal land, and we as a county and our partners, our logging partners, all of our partners said, we'll go put it out. Yeah. And we were denied access to that federal land, and we were denied access through our state leadership. Governor Brown at the time was not an ally or an advocate for us. Yeah. And we lost 5 people in our wildfire, and 2 fires merged. It was the greatest fire. We had 118 mile an hour winds. My peer, Commissioner Cameron, actually fled the canyon. He lives in Detroit the night of the fire. I came home the night before because I just had an unsettling feeling. It's Labor Day week. We were supposed to be up at the lake the whole week. And I just said to my girls, I just think we should go home. Dad's not here, and I just don't know what to do. And I'm actually grateful I did, because I ended up being home in time to be able to open our fairgrounds to be the receiver of evacuees in their animals. Right. Took care of 1,800 animals for almost 2 weeks, myself for 7 days, for people just to, and by the way, that's their livelihood. Right. It wasn't their pets.
Yeah. We burned 67,000 acres in the first 8 hours. Yep. And then it doubled in that size within the next 2 days. And the only reason that fire didn't come all the way to Roseburg was because the wind stopped.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just it was coming, dude. It was coming. And and sadly, people, and Roseburg's different. We're pretty conservative, and so was Glide, which we evacuated the entire city of Glide. I literally went door to door in Glide with our teams. But people forget. And they don't remember the fact that we almost lost an entire city, potentially a couple of cities, because of forest mismanagement. And they can blame it on climate change. We'll
put them on a bus and drive them to Santiam Canyon, because we lost 2 cities.
Yeah.
All of Detroit was leveled. All of the city of Gates was leveled.
I have seen it.
Portions of Mill City, and then the North Fork corridor. People used to come from all over the country to go to Opal Creek.
Yeah.
Now it won't be open for a decade at minimum. Completely destroyed. Plus we're in, well, I say we, the federal government's in lawsuits with environmental groups over the rehabilitation of that forest and these burned trees. It's a disaster.
Well, and you have folks like Representative Gamba and Senator Pham, who are so hardcore environmental activists that they blame 100% of that on the fact that you're driving a car that runs on fuel or on gas. I mean, it's just that crazy.
How do they get to Salem?
That's a good question. How do they stay in Salem? I don't understand how Representative Gamba, and he'll watch this podcast and he'll think I'm a complete ass. And I really don't care. I mean, we argue all the time in committee. The fact is, people first.
Yeah, that's right.
And we need to be taking care of our communities, and that looks different in every community. Sometimes that is, fire mitigation. Sometimes that is whatever it is. But they don't understand that in rural Oregon, I don't, like this morning when I came into the podcast, I live 10, 12 miles away. There's no bus that goes out to Looking Glass and picks me up at my house, electric bus, and brings me here. I drive my car, right? I mean, and that's how we survive. I drive probably on a daily basis when I'm here. I probably drive 60 or 70 miles a day, which, yes, I can do some of that in an electric car. But, you know, when I go out and I haul firewood in my pickup, turns out there's no electric pickup that's going to go up those hills, right, and have enough charge left in it to get you anywhere. So I won't derail you too much, but I'm going to assume that you are definitely for the repeal of the wildfire.
I am. Yes, I've submitted testimony. We would come and testify if we needed to, but I'm very against it. I don't think it is going to get what they want.
Right.
And there's facts around it's not going to get them what they want.
Sure.
And frankly, I think the maps were designed. I mean, Oregon State University was a participant in the creation of that, but the people that did it are these delusional individuals, in my opinion, that look at this climate change as the only crisis or the only issue in the world to focus on. And I do believe that they honestly feel that they are people first too. You know, they believe what they spew, but they live in an echo chamber, which is what frustrates me. Yeah. You know, when we sit at a table, I'll sit down at a table with anybody and have a conversation on anything. But the goal has to be understanding and learning. You know, I'm not going to sit at a table just for somebody to berate me and not see me as a person with value.
Which is what's happening in our House of Representatives and our Senate right now, because the majority party, the supermajority party, bullies minority. They don't care what we say. And that's the urban rural divide has just grown. And, you know, on the House floor a couple weeks ago, I did a remonstrance on how many years we've had Democrat governors. And it's been relatively 38 years.
Since Vicatia.
And we sit here on the House floor and we talk about how, we need change and things are so bad. It's like, you guys have had 38 years. I mean, at the end of the day, it stops with the governor. And I realize we've had times where the House was more Republican than it was Democrat. At the end of the day, the governor has a veto power. And so, and frankly, our governor right now, I don't think she understands what veto means, but she could stop 100% of this nonsense with her pen.
Except for she believes it. And as the speaker, she facilitated a lot of this.
She absolutely did, yes.
Well, and like you said, during the fires, that Governor Brown denied access, where she could have said, yeah. You know, it goes back to one of our local companies. Their stand of timber was in peril, but there was a state stand between them. And the gentleman called the governor and said, look, I'm going through to save my timber. And they said, well, we'll have to go to court. And he said, I'll see you
there.
And he hung up and went.
Yeah.
Why not just give them access? Yeah. You know, it's mind-boggling.
And also, stay out of the way of the local leaders. Yeah. Like, it infuriates me when somebody sits in their ivory tower and pretends to know what the hell it is I do on a daily basis in my community. Right. There's not a single governor in this state that has ever spent any time with local leaders, county commissioners, and city councilors to understand the culture and dynamic of their environment. And if I am saying to the governor, I trust these people and I'm going to back them, you let me utilize my authority and resources to do that. You don't need to parent me. Right. I am an adult. Right. And I really want a governor. I want a Republican governor because I'm tired of being broke. And I want a governor that understands that people are elected in 3 levels of government in this state. And the local leaders are the most important. Right. And any good governor would convene repeated discussions around every situation we have in this state with their local communities to deliver solutions for the culture of that community. This statewide approach is clearly not working. Yes. And every county in the state functions differently. Right. We have 36 counties. Douglas and Marion, we are designed the same, but our resources are very different.
Right.
The way we were formed, very different. The population we serve, very different. And that is why we're unique. We should be embracing that, and we should be allowing local leaders. I know all 3 of your commissioners. Tim Freeman is my favorite. Sorry to the other 2. But Commissioner Freeman is a wealth of information, and he is very responsive, and he's very collaborative, and he is dismissed from state tables more often than not, which is a tragedy. because he speaks so eloquently and so informed on natural resource issues, or, rural issues, you name it. And our governor could care less.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I, too, think all three of our commissioners are great. I mean, they all have it's interesting. Our commissioners all have very different skills, right? Each of the three. Freeman is amazing with timber. Like, if I ever just have a question about timber or natural resources, I just call him. And it's like, I know, and he knows the answer, or he'll point me to somebody that does.
Sure.
But he's also really good with, we just had this major flood issue that just happened, and he's been working his tail off, as well as all of them have. And then when behind the scenes, Tom understands the budget. Yep. I mean, Tom is amazing. I mean, people, I don't think I've ever heard a single person say a bad thing about Tom, but Tom doesn't, he's not the guy, he's not the face out there in front of everybody. He's the guy that's, doing the hard work behind the scenes to keep us from going completely bankrupt.
Yeah.
And Chris, he's the guy, he'll grab a chainsaw and go out and help you. I mean, Chris just spent, I don't know, 3 days on my property helping me with some fire mitigation work, right? Yeah. And I tried to pay him, and he's like, no, I'm just helping you out. I mean, these guys just...
Because they're your neighbors.
They're our neighbors. They're good folks. They're just really good folks.
Yeah.
We got more to talk about here. The house right now is blown up, and the next thing that I'm going to ask you about is a transportation package. So we're starting to get bits and pieces of what's happening with the transportation package from the Democrats, which is, to say it's horrible is an understatement.
Right.
Republicans had a response. I'm sure you had a chance to read that. Our response to getting ODOT in line would have been pretty painless, with the exception of it might have hurt some DEI folks and some of that kind of stuff. And now there's Senator Pham and Representative Gamba came out with their own package behind the scenes, and they that was announced, I believe, on Tuesday at a press conference, and it required an 80 cents a gallon gas tax.
Right.
And they were happy to do it to you. So I don't even know where to start. Just give me your opinion on this natural disaster that we're experiencing with ODOT.
I think it's pretty tragic. I think that what Gamba and Pham and other Democrats who are clearly out of touch with their voters don't understand is the things they've never experienced. The truth of the matter is that when you go to any of their districts, and even in my county, in certain portions of my district, we have extreme poverty. Marion County also has a very large migrant population. And it's not just the Hispanic community. We also have a large Russian Orthodox community. We have a large Asian population, a large Micronesian population. Salem has 96 languages spoken in it, just for a visual in your mind. It's the type of audience that I deal with as a commissioner. Sorry for the microphone hit. And when I talk to these Democrats from Portland who claim that they're the most diverse and they're the most this and they're the most that, they're not. And they're also individuals who have never been forced to have the little grocery buggy to go to get food. Like, I used to be the kid who had to carry the gallon of milk because we didn't have a car, and my sister had to carry a bag, and my mom would carry it or pull the little buggy. We have to provide access to individuals, and the most affordable way to do that in America is through fossil fuel vehicles. That's the facts. Like, we want to all be contributors of a clean, healthy environment. I want to be a contributor to that. But we don't have visionaries in the legislature or in state departments partnering to bring electric cars to all of us at an affordable rate that I can also pay the electric bill or whatever it may be. The 80 cents is going to prevent people from going to work because they won't be able to fuel their vehicle. And those individuals are going to have to choose between fuel and milk. Yeah. That is a crime, in my opinion.
It is a crime, and I believe that people like Senator Pham and Representative Gamba ought to be held liable for it.
I completely agree. But, folks are just surviving. Yeah. And we have to do a better job. Local leaders and people who are seeing what's happening, we have to do a better job of informing our public. And I don't know how to do that yet.
You're doing it today.
I know. And the mainstream media is against the regular message. They're very impatient. They're not interested in really delivering on the facts and realities of what's going to be happening to people. I think my message to anybody that would be paying attention to this is the next time you fill up your car and you pull that pump off of whatever that thing is called, off of the pump, look at the sticker. that states what your state tax is and your local taxes. And most cities don't have an additional fuel tax in Oregon, but the state tax is substantial. For that to increase 80 cents on what we're paying today, I mean, I just paid $3.69 a gallon for unleaded in Salem yesterday. We're pushing it up to a permanent, almost over $4.
We're number 7 in the country right now, I believe. This will put us ahead of California as number 1. We'll be number 1 in the nation for the highest fuel tax.
I cannot imagine that anybody with a brain would support what they're proposing.
You know, I have to say one of the things I've learned in the House of Representatives is that it doesn't matter what your brain is. It's a matter of whether or not you want to follow the caucus, right? And if the caucus says we're going to support this, with the Republicans, it's a little different because we're a minority party. Our job is to get into the majority, but the majority party, they are the supermajority, and they seem to think that they'll force you into taking a vote. I mean, we just took a horrible vote on Senate Bill 916.
I know.
And I spoke to some Democrats after the vote, and they're like, we didn't want to vote on that. I'm like, well, then why did you? Well, because they're going to break our arm, basically. They're the primary.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. What average voters don't know is the threat and the bullying that happens in the building for representatives and senators who want to stand up for their constituents. They will be primered, meaning they will receive an opponent. They will be unelected. And they're personally...
opponent. A well-financed opponent.
But they're more worried about their seat. They freaking got elected to stand up for me today, not necessarily 6 months from now. And I understand having that track record is super valuable. But if we're always worried about our next election, then how can we be viable today?
Right.
And the more viable you are, the more likely you will get elected by your voters who resonate with you.
Well, and we'll get into that on guns here in a minute. One of the things that Representative Gamba, and I'm going to pick on him again because
there was an awesome visual that came out. I think he's like in a Darth Vader suit or something, or anyway, recently that I saw.
Yeah, enjoy your 80 cents a gallon. Yes, or whatever. He came up with this bill, and I believe it finally made it through the House, but it was amended heavily, that it took our current building codes and said, in a multifamily structure, like an apartment complex, low income particularly, that 50% of the parking stalls had to have electric charging stations in them.
Who's paying for that?
Well, we'll get there. So again, if you go back and watch some of the battles he and I have had on in the committee, that was one of the bigger ones, because that's exactly what I said. I go, we have a governor that says we need 36,000 houses a year. We're hitting about 12, right? And we are running contractors out of business as fast as we can, and running them out of the state, and we're taxing people like crazy. And now you're saying this was going to add $50,000 per door to the building expense. And I said, and on top of that, it's going into a low-income housing project.
Yeah.
Explain to me just exactly how many people in that housing project are going to drive electric cars. And he just couldn't get there. And to the point where after the hearing, he sent me an email with a picture of an electric car. It was a Bolt, I don't know, like a 2016 or something like that, that somebody was selling used for $8,000. I sent him back an email. I said, you know better. And now I just couldn't. Anyway, but that's the kind of nonsense that we are moving forward with. Now, I put in an amendment to his bill, which they didn't accept. And it would have basically destroyed the process, but it would have said, look, as soon as we hit 36,000 houses per year for 5 years in a row, then you can have your bill. And of course, it died. But they ended up amending it to just be Metro. So Portland got screwed some more, right?
Perfect. You know what really bothers me about this?
What's that?
And I bet that Gamba and none of the Democrats understand this, but those affordable units, those low-income units, they're all vouchered housing.
Yeah.
Those vouchers come from HUD, which is a federal organization. The federal organization puts a cap on cost per unit for your region. My board of commissioners is also the board for the Marion County Housing Authority.
Yeah.
And I have 2 jurisdictions in my county where our vouchers at the top cost per unit, per bedroom, is not enough to cover the cost of the unit, because the cost of building in those jurisdictions is so high because of local ordinances forced on by the city and the state compound. It prevents a developer from actually building something that is affordable.
Right.
So what he's doing is counterintuitive to what the governor declares, which she doesn't even understand. which is a whole probably another podcast.
Yes.
And it just blows my mind because we do have competing politics from the federal government now, which I'm grateful for.
Yes, finally.
I will tell you, I don't agree with everything the president is doing and his approach. I'm very concerned on Medicaid. If you want to talk about that, we can talk about that.
Another podcast.
Yep. But I am grateful that we have the Secretary of HUD who is going to be reviewing all those programs and creating some guidelines and some structure and some reasonability in partnership with local control. I just met last Wednesday the new Region 10 director for HUD. He came to my office to talk to me, which was massive, by the way. For a decade, I've been trying to talk to that organization. And what he's doing there, yes, they're not going to drive an electric vehicle.
Right.
But they're also not going to have a house to live in. And if they have a house to live in, their voucher won't cover 100% of it, which means they're going to have to find a job, which I hope they do. But even the job they find is going to provide a burden of the gap that they have to cover, which means do they eat? Do they have any livability?
Right.
Do they get to participate in recreation? Like the answer is no to all of those things.
Yeah. And he was a mayor of Milwaukee. He should know better. But anyway, I want to move on. We only have a couple minutes left today. Hopefully we'll have you back if you'd like to come back in the future. I know it's quite a drive for you, but I sure appreciate it. I do that drive twice a week. So
I know. He said this morning, I go, it's quite a drive. He goes, it's 2 hours. And you're right. It's only 2 hours.
It's 2 hours.
I worked the whole way.
I do this. I usually get on the phone when I leave stadium, and I'm on the phone until I get home. Real quick, and you don't have to go into great detail, but for a couple of minutes, I want to ask you a little bit about some your stance on guns, and then I'm going to leave you with a question of, and you can start thinking about this now. Tell us one thing you want to leave us with about Danielle Bethell.
Okay.
But let's start with guns. What's your policies? What's your feelings on guns?
Yeah, so I have a lot of them. I'm pro 2A.
I don't have any.
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second. Yeah, I'm pro 2A. I'm also pro responsible gun ownership.
Okay.
I struggle with the policies and philosophy in Oregon. I wish that we had more education access to gun ownership and use and security. I think it's important to expose individuals to, it's just like driving a car. Mm-hmm. I think that we should, I don't know that it should be mandated, but I think that there should be a fostered mindset around individuals who are gun users and owners, that we provide access to individuals the same skill set. I think it's really important. I have children, I have granddaughters, I have a lot of guns in my house. You know, we have a 22 that sits in the corner because we have squirrels that are always trying to do something nasty to my garden, and my son will go shoot them, or, you know, whatever it is. And we have rules and foundation of education for my family for safety. I don't believe guns kill people. I firmly believe people kill people. And I think Oregon is really extreme. And I also think it's a lack of exposure. The people who are afraid of guns, it's because they've never held one, discharged one, or been exposed to one. And I think we could do it through recreation. It doesn't always have to be about self-defense.
I got to say, I liked you before. I like you better now. I completely agree with you on guns, and it's such a big topic, and I think we owe it some more discussion, but we don't have the time to do that today. So we're right up against the end. Did you have any more questions you wanted to ask her before I ask her the big question?
Ask her the big question.
The big question. So I always ask when we've had some candidates on here for other positions in the past, and I always want to leave at the end of the show with, tell us the one. It could be a word, it can be a paragraph of what it is that you want people to remember about Danielle Bethell.
I think the one word that I want people to know about me is authentic.
I completely think that's a great way. Yes, absolutely.
I'm not going to pull any punches. You might be surprised, but mostly by my reaction. I don't try to trip people up. I don't get gotchas on people. I'm very direct and transparent. Yeah. And I have a heart for everybody. I think that we all have our beliefs and our value systems, and those are important. And we should honor what people believe in and respect people for their beliefs. And one of the things that I hope occurs through this election is, if I happen to have a primary opponent, that opponent, or any opponent in any race, understands that It's about our beliefs and our skills. It doesn't have to be emotional. Right. And I think Oregon is ready, and I think it's time that we are able to debate and deliver information in a positive message so that way people can learn. Because I'm really tired of not learning. Everybody that steps up for office has something to say. Yes. But I can't hear them all of the time because all they're doing is fighting. And I'm really done fighting. I think the Republicans and Democrats need to come together and need to find a table that's big enough to handle the personalities and the information and the crisis and design the solutions and get it done.
That's amazing. I have to tell you, the very first time I met you, my first impression of you was that you were very authentic.
Oh, thank you.
And I was like, is that for real? It's authentic. And I think Trent came away thinking the same thing. Yeah. So listen, we're early in the campaign season. Yep. You and I think maybe a couple of other people have announced so far. I mean, you are the one that has the qualifications to do it. It's pretty obvious.
Thank you.
But I want to say good luck. I know campaigning is hard. I've done it. And getting finances and support is something that you work at every single day. My campaign manager, of course, Trent is my campaign manager, but I had some professional campaign help when I first started, and that's what he said. He goes, 2 hours a day, every day. You call people, you do stuff. So, and in your case, it's going to be a lot more than 2 hours a day, I'm sure, because you've got some big dollars that you need to raise. So I wish you all the luck in the world, and thank you for coming on the show. And please feel free to come back.
I will.
And hopefully we'll have you back.
I'll be back down here again in a couple weeks meeting with local leaders. So I try to get it on a Friday so I can be here for this. But I appreciate the invitation.
We'll be in the interim then, so we can do this on different days. So right now we're restricted to the days that I can be here.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And I hope at some point we can even go live where people can ask questions.
Great.
That's kind of the goal.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Well, I just, the people that are watching the podcast understand what you said. For 38 years, we've been under this leadership and it's failed.
Yeah.
For whatever reason you want to pin on it. And it is truly time for a change of direction to put the common sense and the business concepts back to work that make running a state successful.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm really excited about, and I actually think about this a lot, the governor is in charge of the state, no different than I'm in charge of my county. I get excited to talk to people about roads and trash and behavioral health and public safety, and I understand it. I really look forward to the opportunity to educate the state of Oregon through this campaign about the systems that they don't realize exist that impact them every day.
I think you're off to a fantastic start.
Thank you.
And by all means, my office in Salem is open to you anytime. If you ever need to come by, call, whatever.
I heard there's whiskey.
There might be whiskey. If you ever just need a place to throw your coat and hang out for the day as an anchor point, feel free to come to my office.
Thank you.
So absolutely. So listen, that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you for everybody who is staying with us and doing this. Please, I said, like and follow us. And again, it's on the Virg podcast. I want to also thank one more time our host, which is Little Mill Media here in Roseburg. Amazing company, ran by two great folks, and they put all this stuff on. If you could see what we see, looking back into all the cameras and all the equipment that I have no idea how it works. It's amazing. Those guys just do it for fun, practically. And again, Twin Peaks Off-Road is another one of our sponsors. And thank you, Trent, for being here today. Thank you, Danielle, for coming and seeing us. And till next time, look for next week, and we'll see you all later. Have a great week.